over Europa werpt schaduw. Dan nu filosofeert hij over het kwaad en hoe daarmee om te gaan. Aan tafel een zeer bijzondere gast. De schrijver Amos Oz, die onlangs zijn nieuwe boek Judas publiceerde. Hij is hier op uitnodiging van het prestigieuze instituut Nexus. Ik zeg u er even bij, dit gesprek wordt live ondertiteld. Dus het kan zijn dat die vertaling onvolkomenheden bevat. Dus als u het Engels machtig bent, is het misschien ook goed om dat te volgen. We're honored to have you here, Mr. Oz. Shall we turn to Paris at first?
If you wish.
The attacks yesterday here in Amsterdam City Hall. You gave this lecture for Nexus and you said the struggle of our time is not the struggle between the rich and the poor. It is the struggle between fanatics and the rest of us.
Yes. Yes, I've always disagreed with Samuel Huntington about his concept of war of civilizations. It's not that simple. I said yesterday at the Nexus conference, and I still agree with myself today, which is not always the case with me, the only power in the world which can contain and perhaps even defeat fanatic Islam are the moderate Muslims. I think this is the moment for moderate Muslims everywhere to step forward, to raise their voices, perhaps even to take action.
Yes. The mayor of Rotterdam here probably agrees with you, although he just said that also we have to take away the magnet called ISIS. We have to go to war.
Yeah. Well, look, unlike many pacifists in Europe, my colleagues in the Israeli peace movement and myself, we are not pacifists. We are peace activists. And the difference is that to pacifists, the ultimate evil is war. To me and to my colleagues, the ultimate evil is not war, it's aggression. And yes, Mr. Abu Taleb, aggression must sometimes be repelled by force. It cannot be repelled by force alone. ISIS is a monster. ISIS is violence and death. But ISIS also springs for a certain injury. A big stick is important, but you cannot heal an injury just with a big stick. You cannot hit the injury with a big stick in order to make the injury stop bleeding. It's not enough. So we need the stick, but we also need to think of ways of healing the injuries.
Yes. Yesterday you also said curiosity might be a good antidote to fanaticism.
Yes.
Curiosity?
Curiosity and humor. I have never seen a fanatic with a sense of humor. Nor have I ever seen a curious fanatic. You know, the fanatic is a walking exclamation mark, always. If I could only persuade the fanatics to swallow 2 teaspoons of curiosity and 2 teaspoons of humor twice a day, morning and evening, maybe I would qualify for a Nobel Prize not in literature but in medicine. I think curiosity is an antidote, because curiosity is about putting yourself in the shoes, even under the skins of other people. Not in order to identify with them, just in order to imagine. And if you imagine being the other, you would not be that quick to kill him, along with his neighbors, just because you think he has the wrong ideas or she has the wrong ideas. The same applies to humor. People with a sense of humor also develop a certain sense of relativism. Things may look this way, but they may look differently. So humor and curiosity, I believe, are antidotes to fanaticism.
Yes. Still there, at this moment especially, there is a lot of bitterness about the casualties in Paris, about 352 people wounded. Yes. Is this... Would you dare saying this to the families or the friends of the victims? Is this something...
I've been saying the same to victims of terrorism in Israel for decades. Yes, we need the big stick, but no, the big stick is not enough. We need to think of ways of healing the injury.
Yes, because where I want to go is this. You said many times about terrorist organizations, for instance Hamas. You said you cannot Hamas, you said, is an idea. It's a desperate and fanatical idea that grew out of desolation and frustration. That's what you said. And you cannot defeat an idea with force. How can you?
Well, correction. You cannot defeat an idea with force alone.
No.
I don't rule out force. I don't object the usage of force to repel aggression. But you need more than just force. I've been thinking last night about a relative small Arab Muslim country in North Africa, Tunisia. I was thinking of Tunisia because this is probably the only Arab country where the moderates and the pragmatics won in free elections and defeated the religious fanatics. Mm-hmm. Tunisia should have become the showcase to the rest of the Arab and Islamic world. It should become the envy of the neighborhood. And things could be done about it by peace-loving people, by people who want not only to use the stick, but also to offer an alternative dream to desperate people. And alternative dreams are very, very important as a cure to desperate people.
The alternative dream is maybe the better idea.
Indeed.
That can replace...
Indeed.
And this would be the recipe, you say, along with force, for the battle against ISIS.
That's what I believe in, yes.
Let's turn to Europe for a short period, because you mentioned in your lecture your love-hate feeling towards Europe. Mm-hmm. You said, in fact, that both Jews and Arabs are, in a way, victims of Europe. How did you mean this?
In two different ways. Mm-hmm. The Arabs have been the victims of Europe through colonialism, imperialism, oppression, exploitation, and humiliation. Mm-hmm. The Jews were victimized by Europe for thousands of years through persecution, discrimination, humiliation, pogroms, finally the worst genocide in history. Now, many people think that two victims, especially two victims of the same oppressor, they become brothers, they march together to the barricades, hugging one another. In real life, some of the worst conflicts are precisely the conflicts between two victims of the same oppressor, two children of the same violent parent. They don't love one another. They look at each other and they say, "You are exactly like him." No, you are exactly like him. Jews and Arabs, they often look at each other and they see the worst sides of Europe. To many Arabs, Israel is a reincarnation of a condescending, sophisticated, cynical European colonialism. They fail to see Israelis as what we really are, a bunch of half-hysterical refugees and survivors.
Half-hysterical?
Half-hysterical refugees and survivors from Europe and from the Arab countries, mind you, not only from Europe. But that's what we really are.
So what you're saying...
Below the bravado, the Israeli bravado, yes, we are half-hysterical refugees and survivors terrified to death. We fail to see the Arabs as what they are, fellow victims. We often see them, we Israelis often see the Arabs as Nazis and pogrom makers who wore kafirs, but they are in the same old game of cutting Jewish throats for entertainment. Each of the parties to this tragic conflict look at the other and see the image of the past oppressors. This is a tragedy and a comedy, and tragedy and comedies are really two different windows to look at the same landscapes. They are not two different planets.
No. Let's turn to your book, because there are so many parallels with the actual situation and your novel. It's about ideology, it's about standing together, it's about betrayal, of course. Judas. Let me first say, it's situated in Jerusalem in 1959. That's 11 years after the foundation of Israel. Mm-hmm. And one very interesting character in your book is a dead character. Mm-hmm. He's called Shealtiel Abrabanel. Mm-hmm. And he was a Jewish leader in the entourage of David Ben-Gurion, the founder of Israel. And he dared to disagree with David Ben-Gurion. And he ended up, was regarded as being a traitor.
Yes. Now, I have to give you an advance warning. Judas is not a manifesto, it's a novel.
I know.
It will be a mistake to turn to me and ask me Are you really standing behind this character Abravanel, or behind Ben Gurion, or behind any of the characters? You never approach a composer of a musical piece, let's say string quartet, and ask him, Mr. Composer, are you really behind the violin, or perhaps you identify with the cello?
Yes.
I am behind every one of them. And they contradict each other.
Right.
And I join the different perspectives with the same equal degree of zeal, enthusiasm, and irony.
Luckily, I didn't ask you if you agreed with him.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But this, I said he's an interesting character, this Abravanel, because he disagreed in the early days of the Jewish state, and he said violence is not the way. And David Ben Gurion, the founder, the legendary person, politician in Israel, he did want to go that way. Why did you introduce this character, Abravanel? What was your purpose?
The purpose in introducing Abravanel and the purpose in introducing the ultimate historical traitor, Judas, is my everlasting fascination with the road not taken. The road which had not been taken in history. Now, Abravanel suggests that we will all be better off in a world without nation states. He's not only against a Jewish state, he's against the very idea of nation states. Let there prosper thousand civilizations, cultures, traditions, no borders, no borderlines. It's a powerful idea. It's very attractive. But he gets a fierce answer from another antagonist in the novel who says to him, yes, wonderful. No walls, no bars, no locks on the doors. But why should we, the Jews, once again be the first ones in the world? We Jews have given a one-man show or a one-people show of a people without army, without defense, and the audience didn't like the show at all. Very often the audience simply slaughtered and butchered the actor of the one-man show. So, says this other protagonist, let us Jews, for a change, be the third one in the neighborhood, the fifth one in the world, to give up the bars on the windows and the locks on the doors and all the attributes of nationhood. This argument is as powerful as the argument of Shaltiel Abravanel, and I want my reader to be confused.
Yes.
I don't want to make it easy for my reader.
There are 5 characters in your book, and maybe they are all different opinions in Israel. And maybe you want to show the reader all these different opinions that are alive at this moment in your country. By the way, it's a fictional character, Abravanel.
Absolutely.
He didn't exist.
All of them are. All of them
Except
are.
David Ben Gurion, of course.
Well, David Ben Gurion is mentioned by name, that's right. And Jesus is not fictional, and Judas is not fictional.
And, okay.
To be precise, there are 3 protagonists and 3 ghosts in the story. Ghosts, I don't mean that they walk around wrapped in white sheets, but they are dead people who are vehemently present in the plot of the novel.
Yes.
Jesus, Judas, Abravanel, maybe even David Ben Gurion, although he is not quite a ghost at that time, he is still prime minister and defense minister, but his ghost is in this secluded stone house.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was wondering if your book is about traitors, isn't it about convictions, in fact?
It's the other side of the same coin. This is a novel about loyalty and betrayal, but it's also a novel about love and devotion and longing. First and foremost, bear in mind, it's a novel about people with ideas, not about ideas. It's about individuals with ideas. I was not working sociologically when I wrote this novel. I was not thinking, how would I give a fair representation to each segment in Israeli public opinion? This is not my business. I'm not a parliament.
No.
But I wanted to bring together an assembly of conflicting and contradicting voices and watch how the personal relationship between them evolves. And there is something in this novel which still surprises even me. The plot only lasts 3 months. Winter, Stonehouse, Jerusalem. The protagonists enter the novel as antagonists. They dislike each other, they disagree on anything. Toward the end of the novel, they almost love one another, and I don't know how this happens. I have read the novel quite a few times.
It just happened.
And I can't find the page, the spot, the paragraph where this change of heart occurs. To me, it's almost a secular miracle. I read the novel again and again, looking for the point where the animosity and the antagonism is transformed into something close to love.
You didn't find it?
I'm still looking for it. Maybe one of the readers in Holland will tell me.
I'll read it again. About traitors, there's one main character in your book, Amos Oz, a young student who has failed in many ways. He says about these traitors, about traitors and convictions, he says, traitors sometimes simply are ahead of their time. Mm-hmm. What?
I think he is right. It's not that I agree with Amos Oz on everything, but
No.
I think he is right on this. Sometimes, not always, sometimes in history, traitors are labeled traitors by many of their contemporaries simply for being ahead of their time. Many often, very often, in the eyes of many, a traitor is simply a person who changes in the eyes of those who despise change and hate change and distrust change. This happened again and again and again in history. I can think of poets, writers, thinkers, politicians, heads of states, who were labeled traitors by their own people. Anwar Sadat, when he made the daring step of coming all the way to Jerusalem and extending his hand for peace with Israel, he was called, and is still called, a traitor by millions of Arabs. Menachem Begin, who accepted Sadat's hand and gave back the whole of Sinai in return for peace, he was labeled a traitor by many Israelis.
You were labeled a traitor too.
Many times in my life, and I wear this as a badge of honor on my lapel because I'm in a very good company.
Why were you labeled a traitor?
Because, at least since 1967, since the Six-Day War, I am very critical of Israel's policy of building settlements in the occupied territories and gradually annexing the occupied Palestinian territories.
You fought in the Six-Day War.
Yes,
in
and
67.
if the same circumstance occurred again, although I'm an old man, I'll take a weapon and fight again, because 67 was about an attempt to exterminate Israel altogether. I will fight again if anyone tried to exterminate Israel again. But the result was territorial appetites, religious sentiments for the occupied territories. I believe the key to the solution of the tragedy between Israelis and Palestinians is the realization that the Jews are not alone in that country. The Palestinians are not alone in that country. They cannot become a very happy family, one happy family together at this moment, not after 100 years of bloodshed and hatred and violence. They need to divide the house into two smaller apartments and become next-door neighbors for now. Then maybe shared economy, maybe shared currency, maybe common market, maybe confederation, maybe the United States or the Middle East. But step one ought to be two states next door to each other, in peace with each other, not in love, but in peace with each other.
Your student in the novel, Shmuel, he says, for thousands of years, the Jewish people have known the power of books. Mm-hmm. They have known the power of prayer, the power of education, of commerce, of shrewdness, but they don't know the power of force.
Yes.
And now they have tanks, they have fighter jets.
Yes. He says so, and I think he has a point. Up to a point, it's almost understandable that a people who never had access to physical power is a little bit intoxicated by the fact that now at last it has power. And it tends to forget that power has limits. There are many things that you can do without power, with power. There are many things for which you need to have power. But there are many things which you cannot do with power, and many Israelis tend to forget it.
Yeah, and you just said the Jews should realize they're not alone.
Yes. And the Palestinians should realize that they are not alone.
Is this awareness alive?
Oh, yes.
Over there?
Yes. Oh, yes. I think if you passed a public opinion survey asking every Israeli Jew and every Palestinian Arab not what is the just solution, not what would you love to see, but simply what do you think will happen in the end of the day? Many on both sides will say 2 states, and some will immediately add, and this was a disaster or injustice, but most people know in their heart of hearts that there is no other way out.
Mm-hmm. You can say that Israel was born out of a dream, can't you? Mm-hmm. Was there a moment, was it maybe this moment in 1967 when this dream became a nightmare? Was that the moment?
No, I don't think the whole dream became a nightmare. It simply turned out, like many dreams, that when a dream is fulfilled, it's slightly disappointing. This is true of every dream. The only way to keep a dream rosy and marvelous and dreamlike is never to leave it out. This is true of traveling on a holiday. This is true of living out a sexual fantasy. The only way to keep it marvelous is never to leave it out. Israel is born out of a dream. It's a fulfilled dream. As such, it's not as rosy and marvelous as the initial dream was. Only natural.
I think the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin is now 20 years ago.
Yes.
Even then, the dream after that stayed alive?
Well, the dream is alive for a very simple reason. Millions of Jews who were unhappy in many other countries in the world, European countries, communist countries, Arabic and Muslim countries, they are in Israel. I won't call them happy, but they are better off than their ancestors were in other countries. This is a fulfillment, a flawed fulfillment, an imperfect fulfillment, but it is a fulfillment. Millions of Jews speak Hebrew again after an interval of almost 2,000 years. And I'm a chauvinist for the language, not for my country, but for my language. It's a wonderful musical instrument. I love it. This is a fulfillment of a dream, to revive a dead language and a dead civilization. So there are lights and shadows. Am I disillusioned by Israel? Yes, I am. Would I like Israel to be much better than it is? Yes, I would. Would I ever consider that perhaps the Jews would have been better off without Israel? Absolutely not. I am the child of Jewish European refugees who survived Europe by the skin of their teeth in the 1930s and went to Jerusalem, and that's why I am here today. Otherwise, I won't be here today. So I would never say that, well, never is a big word. Now, I will not say that Israel was a mistake. I would say that Israel could have been much better than it is.
I'm glad you were here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oz.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ja, Amos Oz en het boek Judas.